It's Deep Focus, May 12th, 2025. Mitch Goldman with you. I'm your host. Our guest tonight, Eric Person, is back. That's always good news. And Eddie Harris. I wouldn't have thought of Eddie Harris for quite a while. Maybe eventually I would have. I'm so glad Eric did. And what's coming through in this podcast is really surprising in a great way. And I hope you're enjoying it as much as we are. If you came here without having heard part one, you might want to go back and check that out. Otherwise, hey, let's do this. Okay.
Pat Martino.
Yeah. Okay.
But he played with even more greats. Dizzy Gillespie, Horace Silver, Benny Carter. And it actually has an interesting paragraph here. It says, Ferguson once said that when people asked him what he did, he wouldn't tell them that he was a musician. He'd say he was a jazz musician.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was proud of it and he would wear it as a statement on his forehead if he could.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, he's grooving. He is, no doubt about it. He's holding it down on the drums.
Yeah.
Sherman Ferguson.
Great stuff.
Yeah. And Ralph Armstrong is a standout here. Mm. And, I don't have to tell you, Eric, a trio, there's a lot of room for everybody to be themselves. And it feels like a very solid underpinning.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's something that meant a lot to Eddie Harris. He wanted a firm foundation to work from.
It's interesting, though. We talk about Eddie as a great tenor saxophonist, a wonderful composer, and a multi-instrumentalist because he played reed trumpet, piano, sang, all that. But we don't talk about him as a band leader. We know he had to have a band, wherever he played, but we don't talk about him as a band leader.
Yeah.
And I find that rather interesting because as a composer, most composers, I would think, at least this is how I think, I'm always looking for a unit that's going to play whatever particular tunes I'm going to present, effectively. And so kind of just picking up guys isn't the way that you usually want to function. Here and there, okay, understandably, but you want to have a unit there. You could say, hey, when you get the best gigs, and if you could fly them out or whatever, they're there, And I know he used Jody Christian, the piano player from Chicago. I know that was his guy on many of his records and stuff, and live too. But I don't know of like a band that we could tack on to him.
Yeah, I'm thinking about what you're saying. We don't know, was this an extensive tour or not? Mm-hmm. New Morning generally, I think, does a lot of multi-night stands, so he might have had some time with these guys just on that one gig to work some of these things out. They sound like they know each other on the bandstand.
Yeah.
And he's got, it's fairly simple. It's only 3 voices, but he sounds like he's got some arrangements and they have an idea of where he's going.
Oh, they probably rehearsed well for this gig, I would think. At least, like you said, we don't know if it was a long tour or what, but they sound tight. They sound really good. So he even if he didn't have a working band per se, him being an old veteran of the jazz scene, he knows how to rehearse.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He knows how to put it together in a very short time and get what he wants out of whoever he has on the bandstand, And that's supposed to be one of your things that's in your back pocket. That's one of your tools.
I think, you're also making me think, because listeners don't know this, but we do a lot of preparation for these Deep Focus shows.
Oh,
and we listen to a lot of music. And one of the recordings that we prepared that we might or might not get to was in a very large venue, And I was thinking about Eddie Harris and the number of big hit records that he had.
Yeah.
He knows how to reach a person. He knows how to reach the last person in the last seat in the last row who's sitting there, not even listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's going to pull them in too.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, Eddie knew how to communicate a lot of different types of things in the music, and that's displayed on his records. So here, this set, I think he's going for a certain level of variety, you know. This actually looks like the kind of set I might program. You know, I mean,
there's a whole story, there's a whole narrative just looking at the titles that he's got. So we started with Daoud, at least that's what it was titled, this, which is written by Clifford Brown, going back to we were talking about off mic about Chicago, Max Roach and Clifford Brown and all that, and being his hometown. Eddie Harris must have been in his early 20s when Clifford Brown died. Silver Plated was one of Eddie Harris's, and now we're going to hear his most well-known piece that's, I guess, it's still a standard, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
And that's Freedom Jazz Dance. And should we tell them what's coming their way, or just...
Well, let's just back up a little bit here.
All right. Go on.
I don't know. Some people might know the story of that song, Freedom Jazz Dance, and how it made its way over to Miles Davis. Some people might not. But what I know is that, you know, Ron Carter had been playing with Eddie Harris. And, you know, and so he had played this tune, and Ron Carter liked it a lot. And he brought it to Miles. And Miles, you know, took to it and heard that it was an original kind of statement there. So they put their stamp on it with that, the band with Wayne and Tony, Ron, Herbie, and they recorded it on Miles Smiles. That, I mean, it's been recorded many times and done many ways, you know, and it's a great tune. It's actually hard to memorize, you know, that melody.
I can believe it.
When you hear it, you'll recognize it, but it's quite not hard. I mean, not easy to memorize. Yeah, but it's a great tune, and it's great. Yeah. It's great to, like, if you just want to tune one chord, you know, you can funk out on it. You can, you know, kind of go open with it. You know, so it's cool. Yeah,
very, very percussive, very rhythmic feel to it too.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yes.
All right. It's Deep Focus. Eric Person is here in the studio with us. My name is Mitch Goldman, and it's WKCR Eddie Harris at the New Morning in Paris, January 1986 on W. I'm getting ready to do my... Let's pull this up here. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves. On WKCR. Okay. Things are just popping off here, Eric.
This is we got more mute. Oh,
no, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, we got other sets of music. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2.
Definitely.
And this set here at the New Morning in Paris, January 22nd, 1986, is phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing to realize, okay, so just give you the view from 30,000 feet here for a moment, because, we're halfway through the show already, Eric. Hard to believe as it is. I know. But the show's called Deep Focus. We're here from 6 to 9 p.m. Monday nights. And I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. I always invite a guest. The guest chooses a topic, and then
A subject, indeed.
And I plunge into the WKCR archives and see what we can find. And we usually find something
good.
Really good. And tonight we've got something really good. So Eric chose Eddie Harris, and we found this trio recording from Paris in 1986. And the thing to realize, and I've said this several times, and I might say it several more times because I still can't quite believe the words as they come out of my mouth. Eddie Harris Trio is Ralph Armstrong on bass, Sherman Ferguson on drums, and Eddie Harris playing everything else, including that beautiful, rich harmony of horns that we heard. And Eric, maybe you could talk us through what you were hearing in that and all the other voices we heard in those last couple of tracks.
Well, we were talking about, Eddie's infatuation with electronics, and it went back to, sometime in the 60s. I'm not sure what he's using here, but I know there was a number of different rack units that had, harmonizer programs in it, that he could have had one of those, or a pedal that had the same kind of thing.
But the way he's using it in such a musical way, I think.
Yeah.
There's a real just kind of expression that comes through. And yes, he had a fascination with electronics. He also had a genuine love and curiosity for
intervals.
Yes. And reinventing things that he was already using, that everybody else was using, and he was finding new ways to use them. And we're hearing that all over the place here.
I mean, I like that he did this, because I never had any clue that he had this band or this kind of band. Every time I would look on YouTube and I would pull up something live, it would be something with some kind of funk group, or it would be with Les McCann. And it was just so little in terms of any other projects. He had his records, and then he had, those two I just mentioned. But this is interesting for him to be doing this. He had 10 more years to live. He didn't have anything left to prove, but he's proven it with every note he's playing and every thing he's doing on the stage. I mean, he was a force, a creative force, and he's hearing and his thing. I mean, he went deep into intervals, and he went deep into playing the whole saxophone, when he played. In most solos, you could hear him do these 4 and 5 octave leaps, from the bottom of his instrument up to the top.
Yeah, and that instrument sometimes being his voice. He would do that. Yeah,
exactly. So, I mean, and then, just fourths, playing fourths. I mean, that tune that we just heard, or the one before, the last one was Naima by Coltrane. And then the one before, Freedom Jazz Dance, it has those fourth movements in it that, although fourths have been around for a long time, maybe since the beginning of time, there have been certain jazz musicians who really went all in on fourths.
Walter Bishop Jr. comes to mind.
Walter Bishop Jr., yeah, for sure. And McCoy Tyner. Mm-hmm. McCoy Tyner, although he wasn't the first cat who ever played quartal harmony, he was the guy who put the stamp on it in jazz. He played it in so many different ways and then aligned rhythm with it.
Yeah.
A rhythmic concept that was underpinned in the great John Coltrane Quartet and his own bands. But there, like I say, there's been a few guys who really went into these the interval of the fourth, and Eddie is one of those guys. He actually has a book that you can buy, and I think it's called. I was actually going to bring my copy just so I have it right with me. Okay, I'll figure out the name, but it's some guys swear by it as like a Bible in a sense, but it has a lot of things in it that you can take away from it, take away from it musically, that can kind of bolster your own language if you're developing one as an improviser.
Well, we also, speaking of, we heard from the reed trumpet, or trumpophone, I've seen it referred to as also.
Yeah.
And that was, it is just continually striking to me his range of sonic textures, but also within any one of these things, he's clearly developed a unique voice. What he's doing with the electronics, maybe in somebody else's hands, that's just a gadget that they're using for some effect. I don't believe that's the case at all here. I think he's got a fully developed expression in that. And with the reed trumpet, so it's basically a saxophone mouthpiece jammed onto a trumpet.
Might have been glued on.
Maybe. And apparently, and there were a number of people doing things like this at this time. And it was a time when he developed that in the 70s of great experimentation and extended technique and all that. But he apparently came up with that first. And, okay, so maybe it's a little bit of a gag or a shtick or, a experiment.
I don't think so.
But he had such an interesting tonal range and range of
expression.
But also, just like from his lowest to his highest notes and the tone and how it evolved. He had tremendous control of
He had
what
a solid range on that instrument. Yeah. Actually, what we were listening to on Freedom Jazz Dance is actually the longest song of this whole set. And so it's almost like he picked up from where Miles took the tune. Because if you hear his recorded version of the tune, it's nowhere, it didn't have that openness thing about it. So it's almost like he heard Miles do it a certain way. He was like, you know what? We're going to open this mug up. The feeling is going to be open. It's not going to be locked into a groove or something. Although he did play on the piano, a repetitive thing. But the thing that I liked so much about what he was just doing was, in his solo that is, was that he was playing some very Miles-ish phrases, swinging like crazy. And then he also sounded very much like Don Cherry at some places.
Yeah.
The freer he got, he sounded more like some aspects of Don Cherry that I liked, a lot. So it was very cool.
Eric Person, where can people hear you play these days? What's coming up?
Okay, so I play at a place called Albert's Bar every Friday, and Albert's Bar is located on 140 East 41st Street, and that's from 3 to 6. It's just a happy hour, 3 to 6, Albert's Bar, 140 East 41st Street.
Great way to get your weekend started.
And I'm also going to be doing performances throughout the summer at my second home, which is concerts at Pershing Square. Mm-hmm. Pershing Square is between East 41st and East 42nd and Park Avenue. So I'm there starting the series off May 27th. So
that's coming right up.
Yeah. So 12 to 1:30 at Pershing Square. Basically, the plaza there between 41st and 42nd at Park Avenue.
And what days of the week is that?
No, that's going to be on Tuesday. If it rains, it's going to be on Thursday. But that's May 27th.
It's a great little spot. It's a perfect little.
Oh yeah, it's the place to hear concerts in the summer. Yeah. I'm also going to be playing occasionally at Dante Park, which is right across the street from Lincoln Center. I'm going to be there September. This is a little ways out, but September the 2nd, I believe it is, and that's going to be with my group, Person to Person, which features Houston Person.
Wow.
Can't be missed.
That's another great spot. Another perfect little place. You got
exactly. So let me just make sure I got the date right. No, it's September 3rd.
Okay.
September 3rd is a Wednesday, and so Dante Park, right across the street at from Lincoln Center, 64th. And Broadway or whatever. Yeah, so that's 12 to 1:30.
Both those places, they do a very nice job of presenting the music. Yeah. I love the fact that you always have, there are people who are definitely there to see you, and then you catch people.
Oh, yeah. Once they hear the music, they got to stop.
Yeah.
They be like, I'm going to be late. Yeah. But anybody who wants to know my schedule, they can stop by my website, ericperson.com, ERICPERSON.com.
Nice one. We are in Paris. It's 1986. It's the New Morning Club. And Eddie Harris is leading a trio that sounds like a 9-person trio, because everybody else, it's just Eddie alone
sounds like an orchestra.
He really does. Yeah. I can't think of anybody that's more true of than him.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, it's got an amazing range of voices, and we've been working through this set of originals and some very selective cover songs as well. And as we go, you'll keep hearing. Make note of whose work he's summoning in our memory as he goes through this. But the next couple are written by him, Ambidextrous and Sally Butterfly. So let's head on into this. And once again, the trio, Ralph Armstrong, really outstanding on bass, and Sherman Ferguson, who neither Eric nor I was very familiar with. I don't think I'll ever be able to say that again, because I think he's doing a great job on this. And Eddie Harris, our leader. The show's called Deep Focus on WKCR. We are in Paris with the magnificent Eddie Harris. We're going to be back with him in a moment. I want to let you know you're listening to Deep Focus on WKCR-FM New York, WKCR-HD, WKCR.org, perhaps, anywhere in the world. Here in New York City, we are 89.9 FM. And you can also hear us on the Deep Focus podcast any place, anytime. You can subscribe right now, and you will get a little notification when this very episode gets posted, joining 400 others, including many featuring my guest tonight, Eric Person. Hey, look at that. We're talking about you. We're talking about you listening to the podcast, which you're doing right now. We're getting kind of meta. How about that? May 12th, 2025. Eric Person in the studio with me, and we are getting into some Eddie Harris. It's, man, what a pleasure. I kind of love the fact that Deep Focus actively, aggressively tilts against the micro attention span that seems to be taking over media these days. And I guess you're along for the ride on that. And thanks to everybody who's put something in the pot for this. I can't tell you how much it means. Really appreciate it. It's really very few of us that keep this thing going. And when I say that, I mean me and the musician guests and you, the listeners. If you guys weren't around, we kind of might be doing this anyway, but we wouldn't be going to the trouble of broadcasting it and making a podcast out of it and all that. That we do for you, and we think of you guys as part of the show. And there's, I'll give you an example of how few of us there really are here. So last time I checked, most of the listeners come to the show through Apple Podcast. I think a total of like 68 people have said they liked it or made a comment or whatever. I think it would be kind of cool to push that up over 100. So if you haven't done that, that would be really great if you're on Apple Podcasts. If you're on another, hey, let's get a little something going. Let's get your podcast app competing against Apple. And the best way to do that is by clicking likes or 5 stars or whatever through your listening app. But really what I just want to do is just let more people know about this show. Please I'm assuming you like the show. You're still listening after the end of this hour-long segment. Let someone you know who listens to this music or might like this music know about Deep Focus. That would be really cool. And some of you have let us know that, hey, you're happy to throw a little something in the pot for the financial cost of this. We now have a mechanism for that, and it is through PayPal. Go to PayPal. You need our email address, which is deepfocusnow@gmail.com. deepfocusnow@gmail.com through PayPal. You don't have to do it. I'm not giving away any tote bags or coffee cups or T-shirts or anything. Not yet, anyway. If we ever do, I'll definitely find you and send you one if you have made a contribution here. But no, it's just helping out. It's just a group of us pitching in to do this. And you're already doing your part. You're listening. That's number one. Really glad you're along. Okay, so there's one more hour-long part to come of this great show on Eddie Harris, my guest Eric Person, May 12th, 2025. See you over at part 3.